Hey, welcome back, Doobie Nights fam. This is Donald with Doobie Nights Live. In this episode, we sit down with Maggie from Heavy Hitters and talk all things Heavy Hitters and the amazing vape cartridges and other products that Heavy Hitters has to offer. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode.
So, let's talk about weed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Heavy Hitters because that's what you do now.
Right. I guess we can talk about my main squeeze. You know, I was thinking we're talking to my boyfriend the other day and I was like working from my computer and I turned around and I was like, he was wearing a Heavy Hitters shirt. He had a Heavy Hitters hat on. He had Heavy Hitters things like all around him, like sauce and carts and all of these things. There's a Heavy Hitters poster like above my couch. There's a Heavy Hitters cup, like a beer pint glass in the kitchen on the counter. I'm wearing a Heavy Hitters shirt. I'm like, it's so embedded in my life that I can't, it's hard to imagine not having this job or being so like Heavy Hitters focused. Yeah. I'm like a fangirl. I'm such a huge like fangirl for the company that it's embarrassing sometimes. And
but that's what makes the day easier to deal with and like just going to work in general, because it's like you love the product, you stand behind it, you use it, you're not just trying to sell somebody on something to get paid.
Right. And I'm so spoiled. Like I do get the chance to try other cartridges, but you asked me about 2 different brands downstairs that I literally haven't even gotten around to trying because it's like when I want to try a cartridge, I want to try something that's like a little different or like something that, you know, we don't really offer. So like chemistry is kind of like like if there's a cool chemistry strain that I want to try, I'll buy one of those. I bought one of those little Nevada disposables.
Where'd you get that at?
Mercy has them. Yeah, they're like the colorful ones.
I haven't seen them.
I bought one of those to try it out. You know, there's a couple of like the more off the beat kind of like, or live resin or something that's a little special, I'll buy and try it out. But most of the time it's like, I've tried other carts before and it's just like, I won't finish it and I do have a hard time finishing even the special ones I buy because it's like, it's just not the same.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have so many carts at home. I remember when I first started, we were doing training and one of the girls came that she had been at Mercy for a long time. And so she had like, I swear to God, it was like 50 to 100 carts just like laid out, right? All these batteries. And I'm like, why would the hell would you have that many carts? Like, but then like now I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this one. I'm gonna get this one. Then you guys bring samples and we try them. And now we have literally, Madeline and I have a box at the house that's just like vape shit. Yeah. And it's a lot.
I do think retail is a little more spoiled than we are at the distribution. Cause like I said, everything I have is like our brands. Like I have tons of Heavy Hitters stuff, tons of surplus stuff and Almora and all of that stuff. But I don't have like a ton of everything of every like brand. And every time I've like been to someone like a bud tender's house or like, you know, somebody who works at a dispensary, I'm blown away by what you guys get sample wise. Like so cool. I'm very jealous.
I came home last night and she's like, oh, I organized our cabinet. Cause we literally have
a whole cabinet of it.
But like the whole cabinet in the kitchen. And it was like, holy shit, cause we just moved in. So it's a lot of it just got thrown in there, but she organized it like gummies and like, but we could open up a little like side hustle on the same shit if we wanted to. But it's nice cause I just give it away. Like,
and I use it kind of as bartering, sometimes as bartering, you know, like, oh, I have this cart and you are going to come like build a dresser or cut our hair or like whatever. Like, you know, we know a hairdresser and we'll get our hair cut and
I've done it for my barber too. I like use it as a tip. And then like the next time I come in, he's like, charges me $20 less because he knows I'm going to hook him up with something.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's cool.
But also it's nice to just have, like, if there are customers or bud tenders or, some employee or staff member that's like, I really have been wanting to try this and I haven't had a chance, and I happen to have something that, I've had or whatever for photographs or whatever it is, like, I'll totally give it to them. And I think that's the point.
And what is it about heavy hitters that when you try those other carts that you don't like? Because I have a couple friends, they when they started shopping here, when I started working here, and they were heavy hitters like all the time.
Right.
But then we, being a bud tender down there, and I get all these samples. I'm like, oh, you guys should try like this or this Dizzy Pod or whatever it is. Well, you get just the new thing, and they always come back to heavy hitter. Right. So. And
that's, I think, like, one of our, like, when we talk about our company as like, we have this huge retention rate. I think it's somewhere like 95% of people who start smoking heavy hitters return to heavy hitters again. And I think there's a lot to do with it. We're a top shelf vape cartridge, which, there's a lot that goes into that. The fact that, and I guess I can, just get into it. But we have been doing distillate since 1996. So this is a 25-year long period of perfection. And, like, I started working for this company about 3 years ago. I got the job in 2018, is that right? 19, 20? Yeah, so 2018, summer of 2018, I started as a brand ambassador. I was a part-time, and I got a couple of carts to try on my first day. And we have come a long way since then. Like, we do have a smoother hit now, and our terpenes are not as powerful as they were. They're a lot more subtle and like manageable for a vapor, like, I remember, like, when I first started, grape ape was such a strong taste. And I think, now that we've changed things about our formula, our terpenes are a little different. We have a little bit more of a precise formula for our carts that taste, like, when you do get a cart that has a taste to it, it's not as overpowering as it was. It does have a smoother hit to it. And so, like, and that's only in the past 3 years. So, like, you can imagine 25 years ago, we had, like, carts that you had to use a lighter to heat up the oil, and we had the dablicators and stuff. We had different stuff, and we had the 2.2 grams. Like, I think that's kind of what set us apart in the beginning, was that, we were heavy hitters, our potency was there, and we also had carts that were bigger than anybody else's. Yeah, that's
huge. I've never seen one that big. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, and that was, they were medical only, even when things were recreational, because it was over that 2 gram limit. I think the limit is still 2 grams, which is interesting that we haven't seen a lot of carts come out that are like 1.5 grams or, anything that is a little bigger. Even dab, like, sauce jars or anything, it's always just 1 gram when it could be 2.
For me, like, it's a big commitment to do a gram, because I like to we have tons of shit down there, so it's like I always want to just change it up. So, like, a half a gram I can deal with. A full gram, I'm like, I always end up with, I don't finish it. So
right. And I think that was another thing we always did, that we never did half grams with heavy hitters. The only thing that you can find with heavy hitters now that's half gram, and that's our OG distillate, is the Pax Aeropods that we still make.
Okay.
Pax Aero hasn't had the following that, 510 threads have, but it's there, and it definitely is an interesting kind of cool way to vape.
I like the Pax.
I like it too. I think I've had a bunch of them, and when my mom first showed it to me, when she had one and the app and everything, I was like, this is dope as fuck. I love this. I want one. But that was before I even started working for Heavy Hitters. She had one, and I was like, so it's an older, like,
it's been around for a minute.
Yeah, it's an older device for sure.
Carts that I ever got.
Really? Interesting.
One of my friends got it. The one that I was just telling you about that gets the heavy hitters, he got it. And so and it was the app thing. That's what got me. He's like, oh, you got this app, you could dial in the temps, all this shit. And I'm like, I want that for sure. So I got it and I stuck with it until iOS took it off. And then I'm like,
it was I think Apple really effed that up, you know?
They did.
Instead of talking about being a company that's like, I think progressive laws are great and helping people achieve medicine is great and just do it legally at the legal dispensaries. But I get it. Big companies can't really take those risks.
It doesn't make sense to me just because there's ways to verify the
verification process and all that stuff.
I mean, you know, so I don't know. I thought that was just it was a dumb move, and it was like right around that time that the vape. It was the
vape gate thing. You know? That was really, they were like, we want people to be safe and we don't want to encourage like dangerous activities or whatever. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know anyone that was selling counterfeit Pax pods. They were all counterfeit, like Mario Karts and all of those. Like, I mean, there were some counterfeit products of ours as well, but all of it was counterfeit, bought online, bought on the street, everything in a legal dispensary, as you know, tested very heavily. You know, even for heavy hitters, like we had this clean cannabis guarantee even before the BCC required testing, where we would literally do those test results, like get those tests, because we wanted to guarantee that the cannabis that, you know, the consumers were buying, they could trust that it has been tested and it has passed these tests and it is clean and it wouldn't be on the shelf if it wasn't, kind of thing. And
I think that's why you guys, having been around for 25 years and all that, you're ahead of you've kind of like, you've showed that the quality's there and people trust it because they go, okay, this company's been around. They're obviously doing something right. Right. You know, so it's easier to sell somebody on that versus like, hey, check out this new company that we got and they've never heard of it, but the price is right. So yeah, they'll try it, but then they always like, no,
right. And to come back to your question, like why people come back to us, you know, and nowadays our formula is so precise, like our purity is there. We've got some of our strains down to less than 1% of, you know, other filler products. We call them constituents, like just the parts of the plant that aren't getting you high, the fats, the waxes, the chlorophyll, the lipids, all of that stuff. That's plant material, you know. You do it to olive oil and any coconut oil, anything, you have to remove the plant material because it's useless. Right. So like, the purity is there, and not only that, but like our terpenes have gotten to the point where like we don't have to. We use really, really pure terpenes. They are botanical terpenes, but they're cannabis native, which, you know, at the end of the day, a limonene molecule is a limonene molecule, regardless of where you derive it. If you derive it from a lemon or you derive it from a cannabis plant. Super hard to derive. I always use the limonene example. I don't know why, but
it's the easiest to correlate, I think.
To a lemon and like, you know, and so we do extract from plants. We're not synthetically creating the molecules, but because we're doing that and we're not isolating terpenes from cannabis, you know, they taste a lot better. And also we don't have to use 10%, 6%. We can use like as low as 4, 3% and get to that level, you know? So that really adds to, I think, just like the experience of it is like, it's so pure. You don't have to smoke 6 hits to get super high and ripped because even, you know, our THC content is super high as well. And, so
it's always high.
The quality is there. And I think you can tell the difference. Our quality control team is, you know, very extensive and they look at everything, and our R&D team is super amazing. They've come up with so many awesome new products in the past year. And
I was just trying to think while you were talking about quality. I've been here almost 2 years since we opened. I honestly can't remember very many times having a heavy hitters cart come back. Like I was just thinking, like I probably couldn't count on one hand even. Yeah. You know, and that's rare because a lot of other car companies, we get them back once a week. Right. You know, at least
even when I started and we had glass cartridges that people would shatter, you know, pretty frequently, our return rate was still like less than 1%.
Yeah.
And now that we switched to C-cell in the past, I think like year and a half or maybe 2 years it's been, you know, it's almost non-existent that you get a cart that just doesn't work or something like that. Because I've tried to break a C-cell cart just to show people that you can't break them, and it's impossible. That
I shouldn't even jinx it. I feel like I just jinxed it by saying we never get them back, you know, because we had a company that they came in and we had never seen one come back. They did a training and said that was their big thing. Like, our carts never leak.
Right.
And now we get them back constantly, leaking.
Wow, interesting.
Not because they're, you know, of anything else, just leaking. Like, you know, so maybe I shouldn't have said knock on wood.
Right.
But
so
even back to like the brand, like the clothing thing too, is like, fuck. We were going through our closet yesterday, and I swear to God, like, aside from having 60 of these flannels, most of my t-shirts are cannabis related now.
Right. Yeah. And you guys, like I said, retail gets all of them. You get all the cool shit. Like,
but it does. But there's only a few that I like to, that I literally will hang up, and I'll wear this aside from just like a day that company might be in the store. And Heavy Hitters is one of them. How long I bugged you so long. I remember I felt bad. I'm like, I'm going to ask her every single time she comes in, I want a hoodie. Yeah. And I actually still have the hoodie.
And you got it.
Yeah. I love that thing.
I was true to my word. I knew you guys wanted them, and I brought them. And that's my job.
But it's cool because it's a brand that, like, that logo that you have, it doesn't like scream like I smoke weed. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I've had people ask me if it was like what it was. Like, hey, where do I get a shirt? Like, where'd you get that? You know? And then I got a hat too. And I like that because I don't mind telling people that I work at a dispensary, but I also don't want to like walk around with like big weed leaves all over my shit. And some of them are like just out there like that, you know? Yeah.
I had like a Flocana hat that has a tiny little weed leaf on the front, like really small. And we went to Bodega Bay, had a nice day, went to the gas station, and the gas station guy was like, oh, I see that plant on your hat. You know what plant that is? I'm like, yeah, I know what plant it is. I work in the cannabis industry. And he was like, oh, I see. Okay. And I'm like, okay. Like,
he was one of those judgy ones.
Right. And you do get mixed things from people even now. And well, I was recently in Alabama, which it's very illegal in Alabama. And you get a lot of well, people don't even talk about it. It's you gotta hide it, and you gotta be careful who you talk to about it, because people, you know, don't really appreciate it there. Yeah. And part of my family that I don't really know apparently is in law enforcement, and I don't know them because I don't. They live in Alabama, whatever. But my mom is connected on Facebook with all of them. And so we went to this party, and I was like, Mom, why is everyone being so mean to us? Like, I thought they're our family members. Like, what is going on? And she was like, oh, don't worry about it, whatever. When we leave, and she's like, well, it's because they know that I grow weed, and they know that you sell weed, and they know. And I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, I thought they were just like these Californians over here coming into our barbecue, eating our crawfish. No, it's like they don't like my job.
I've been fortunate. My family's all, I mean, we grew up here, so it's not like a foreign thing. And it was, you know, I mean, I grew up in church too, so that we like, don't smoke weed because, you know, you'll commit sins and like whatever, I don't know, like mind altering. But then, you know, like you start digging into like the ancient text anyway, and they say like a lot of the anointing oil they talk about, it was cannabis derived too. So it's been around for thousands of years. But my whole family was really, they were more surprised just because I went from being like military to like a pastry chef. How do you end up in the cannabis industry? They were just kind of shocked how it came to be. Right. But now they're all like, hey, bring me gummies when you come visit. Hey, grab this, you know, get me this. I still, like, all the time, you know, when I go visit people, bring me some. I actually brought some Heavy Hitters gummies to my mom.
Sorry.
I haven't gotten any.
Sorry. I'm okay. Sorry.
I haven't gotten any feedback on it yet because she's a lightweight.
Okay.
I brought her some Cannas.
Take a little
10
half.
milligrams was like a lot for her.
Okay,
so I told her, I was like, okay, wait on these.
Yeah, or you can cut them in half.
Or cut it. Yeah, I told her, I said cut them in half, but and then like Madeline's grandma, she had a couple the other day, and like it was way too much.
A couple of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, so it was that old thing, like where I know we've all done it, where it's like, oh, it's not kicking in. Like maybe I'll eat another one.
Yeah.
And then it kicks in.
Right.
Like, oh shit.
You never know, because the thing I tell people about, or I don't usually say this, but I do tell some people, I'm like, if you're gonna eat an edible, chill out, because most people don't realize that your digestive system takes a break if you are stressed out or you're anxious about something. So if you're like taking a gummy and you want it to hit you, don't be stressed out, don't be anxious, just chill, because then it'll take way longer, especially for new users, you know, like people who are like nervous about how it's going to hit them, or like they're kind of like anxious about it happening to them or whatever. It's like, you gotta chill out, or else you're not gonna feel it, because your digestive system isn't gonna break it down, because you're anxious and stressed out.
Most of the time when I talk to people down there and they're afraid of an edible, it's not so much that they've never done it, it's that they did it before it was regulated.
Ate
way too much, and then they got fucked up. And then they're just like, they're scared. That's how I was. I was just like, I'm not eating. I had a cookie one time that was like 500 milligrams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it was the longest high I've ever had, and the worst. And so I stayed away from it for a long time. And it wasn't until I started here again that like gummies and it was even a thing. And even heavy hitters, like no matter how much I eat, I tend to eat a half and then wait and then do it. I can't do 20 all at once. It hits me so hard. My tolerance has not gone up.
What?
You know,
Crazy.
I don't know like what it is. Like we got, you know, Nick, he can eat like 600 milligrams and function.
Yeah. I mean, I'm at 100. I think that's if I know, you know, where I'm at, like if I want to be really high, I can take 100 and it's comfortable, but it's that where I want to be. It's like really high. I can take 50 and be like, okay, like this is fun. But 100 is like, I want to go to sleep. I want to just chill. I don't want to think about anything. I just want to be really high. I can get to that 100.
For me, it's like, I can handle, like I could do 50. I did 50 here on accident. I was eating what I thought were samples of non-medicated. And then next thing I know, I'm like, wait a minute, that one kind of had a weed taste to it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, these are medicated? And I was like, so I started doing the math. I'm like, fuck, I just ate like 50 milligrams. And I still got half my shift left. And I was able to get through it. It's just a level that it's like when you drink, you know, you just kind of want to hit that one little spot and then stay there, maintain it. And that pushed me over the edge a little bit. And so I don't like it, but I could do it if I had to.
Right. I apologize.
No, you're good. That's the work phone, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have two phones, one for the plug, one for the love. I'm the plug though, so.
Yeah. And a lot of accounts to handle. So.
Yeah. I've got a lot of babies. I take care of them all and I make sure they're happy. And if they're not, I fix it. That's my job.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like I said, 3 years. I wasn't always an account manager. I started in Sacramento part-time. And at the time I had 3 jobs. I had this job doing part-time brand ambassador. I worked after school at a preschool, or no, at a elementary school. I was with like 3rd graders. They were the worst. So yeah, it wasn't preschool. And then I was also doing like ABA services in home for 2 different kids. So I just like had a small workload there, a small workload Monday through Friday after school hours, and then doing this demos and stuff, which was, I mean, it was crazy and I was doing a lot, but this was the job that I really, really liked. And I was living in Sacramento and I was doing pretty well, you know, with the brand ambassador thing and planning my demos and just like being really independent. Like, and my boss was like really into like the initiative I took, and she offered me like her assistant position. Okay. And I took it, which was full time, so I was able to quit the other two jobs, and that was really awesome, and it felt great. And I started being the assistant, which meant I was kind of managing all of the admin work for the whole North territory that she was covering. So there was like, and then the other brand ambassadors, I was also helping them build their schedules, and, you know, so it's just, right. Stuff. I was like, whatever she needed me to do. And then also managing like all the demos and everything like that. Yeah. So, after a while of doing that, the company was kind of interested in like what I was doing as like the assistant, and kind of wanted to just make a flat like brand ambassador role where it included kind of doing all of that extra like assistant stuff. Okay. So they cleaned up the brand ambassador team and then like kind of just made it that role. And after that, I was like, you know, doing that role for a while. And then I was offered to do inside sales, which was just like, you can have this chain of shops, manage this chain, and kind of get your feet wet doing sales. So that was really fun. I don't know if you know the Colas group in Sacramento, but they had 9 shops at that time. And so I was the account manager for 9 shops, and it was a little easier because there was one like point of contact for all 9 shops, but I still had to manage each shop's inventory and demos and like deliveries and all of that stuff. So it was a nice way to kind of get started a little bit. Yeah. And that was like the wildest time. I think I was just like going so hard and making sure everything was like, everyone was happy. And it was my first kind of like role as, you know, a salesperson, as being the manager for them. And I remember 710 was like my first official day as their manager. And I went to every night, each night, I went to each of the shops, all 9 shops, brought them all snacks and like 710 goodies. And it was just like a whirlwind. And I was like, wow, I think I could do this. And when I moved out here, I applied for the account manager position out here and didn't have to quit to move and all that. So it was awesome. Nice too.
So you went from 9 shops to how many now?
Oof. I have with leads and everything, it's close to 40. Active wise, it's like about half of that, little over half of 40 is like almost 30. But and
there's a whole shitload of shops opening up in the next couple years.
And there's more coming. There's some more coming every month, especially Santa Rosa. We're becoming like one of the most competitive cities for dispensaries.
It's crazy. We just saw the map last week.
Yeah,
of what the existing. Yeah, it's like it shows you like all the existing and then what's approved.
Right. And then what's waiting.
What's like waiting, and you're like, where in the hell are all these going to go?
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And like, how are they going to all maintain like enough business to, but I mean, there's liquor stores everywhere too. So I guess.
Right. And I would be really interested to see the breakdown of San Francisco's dispensary map, or like somewhere like where the population is a little more dense, I guess, or like where people do, I mean, Santa Rosa, cannabis is kind of in our culture, in your culture. I mean, say our culture, like I live here. I do live here, but I'm not from here. I don't know. I just think that it's like, I think they're counting on a lot of tourism and all of that stuff. But since I moved here, I have noticed there are a lot of out-of-state license plates, more than I've ever seen anywhere. So maybe there is something to that tourism thing.
Yeah, and then at the end of the day, it's tax revenue, and then like all the things that they all just the money it costs to pay to get permitted. So at the end of the day, it's like they if you don't make it, they still got paid.
Right.
You know what I mean? So because I've been to San Francisco, and there is a lot of shops, but I feel like they're a lot more spread out because I used to go with Madeline to all her accounts that she was handling.
Right. Yeah.
And it sometimes it would take a minute to go from one shop to the next. And, there's a few, they were, I don't know. I don't feel like it was as dense as what we're about to deal with here.
Right. I mean, and there are some cities that I cover that, or that I've been into, like Eureka, for example, very close. All the dispensaries are very close together, and Eureka's a small town. So, it's a lot of shops per person, and Eureka does get a lot of tourism though, but it's, and
it's like Cloverdale. They did 3 shops. Well, 2 that are like, one of them's Red Door, right? Red Door Remedies. Love that shop actually.
And they were the only ones there for a while besides the delivery service.
Yeah, and then you got Cloverdale Delivers, and then the other, I don't even know the other
Cloverdale
one.
Wellness.
Yes, there you go. I couldn't remember it. But when I went to the meeting about that, and they were talking about I'm like, is there enough people to support 3 shops? But
right.
apparently, there's enough of a selection, I think, of products out there that as long as they, find the ones that work for their clientele.
Right. But then like on our end, it's kind of, it's funny because it seems like there's like retail and distribution. Like retail's like, we're only going to carry the products that are going to work in our shop that are potentially like different from the shops around us. Hopefully we can have some unique things. And the distributions are like, we want to be in every shop everywhere. So it's like, there's always going to be this like butting heads of people who just don't want, and that's, sales.
Yeah.
There's just going to be people who don't want to carry your stuff. And I guess that's the point of portfolios, is like having different stuff in your book that kind of would work for different places,
Yeah, but I mean, also I think just like you guys, you don't have like a fuckload of shit. I mean, you have a good selection of stuff, but like what works and you stick with what works, and you're not trying to go so far out of the box that it's like, okay, now you start losing quality. And
exactly.
And like with heavy hitters, I think the biggest hurdle for us was convincing somebody to spend the cost of that cart, because it is at that top shelf price. But once you could get them to do it, they stay with it, because then they realize like, okay, why do you buy an iPhone? You get what
you pay for,
you pay premium price for your iPhone for a reason,
right?
Because you know what you're getting.
Yeah, and that luckily we've had a long period of time in cannabis to kind of build our name and have that reputation of, we're sometimes the most expensive cart, but that means you're going to get the best cart, that it's, the quality is there for it. So
yeah. We were just talking about it a couple days ago, how it's weird that you have the low end and then the top shelf, and then everything in between kind of gets lost. Like customers come in and they'll buy a $20, $30 cart or a $60 cart, but then the ones that are like right in that 40 range, they don't sell as fast. They sell, but just not as fast as like those two.
That is interesting.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out like what it is about that, like,
Yeah, and I always talk about THC percentage and how there's like price tags on the higher THC and all that. But it's definitely like a black market legacy of like, if you're going to move product that's risky to move, you got to have the most like bang for your buck. You want the purest stuff. And so like THC, if you're going to be illegally traveling with flower, the best like, I guess, payment or benefit of doing that would be having something that's like the most THC. And even though we're legal, it's still federally illegal. So I think there's just that like legacy of like, if I'm going to spend money on this, I want to get the most bang for my buck. Yeah,
especially with the taxes being what they are, and
right, yeah.
And sales tax in Santa Rosa just went up, so that's.
And I think why Heavy Hitters has been pretty successful. I think like vape wise, THC percentage does matter.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna, a full gram of oil, you're gonna spend some money on it. You don't want to spend a good amount of money on something that's mostly just plant material or mostly just, terpenes or anything like that. You want to get that THC percentage, and then you can use less of it at one time to get to the level you want to get to. So if you are slower or even more of a lightweight, you can kind of take one little hit and be at, chill.
Yeah.
Make your cart last.
Yeah.
But then it's also good for those who are like, I'm ready to get ripped right now. Get your Heavy Hitters cart. You can get there pretty quickly.
So so before we came up here, you were showing me the Surplus, and what's the other one?
Right. Surplus Tropics.
Oh, yeah, the Tropics.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I knew it started with a T. So talk about those just a little bit, because I liked it, and I want one.
So we used to have, or we still have this company. It just doesn't get a lot of focus, but it was called Rad, and it was for the party people, and they had all of these awesome flavors, and it was really popular with like younger people and stuff like that. So you know, we don't put a lot of focus on it. It's still available, it's still out there, but you know, we've moved away from it a little bit. So there has been kind of a need in the market for something a little bit more like that, something that's gonna get you high, something you can have fun with, you know, but something that's also a little more discreet or a little bit less like smoking weed, you know, and or something that's just like fun and tasty. There's a couple of different reasons why you would go for this, but Surplus Tropics, we're doing like more exotic terpene profiles, a lot of fruit forward terpene profiles. You still get the THC, you still get that punch, but you get like a really tasty flavor with it as well. So like some of the flavors I've tried is peaches and cream.
What was the one that was downstairs?
That one was kiwi blast.
So good. It was so good.
I also had pina colada. Those are the ones I've tried. We have like a grape, blueberry, and a strawberry. And there's a new one coming out called like razzmatazz or something like that. So they're very fruity, and they don't smell like cannabis, and they're pretty manageable, approachable, accessible. You know, they're not super pricey. So if you're just getting into cannabis and you're like, I like the taste of cannabis, but some people think it tastes like grass. And so did I, like 4 years ago when I was just getting into, I was like, this is disgusting.
It's an acquired taste.
Exactly. So if you're new to something, but you want to vape, or you don't want your friends to know, you want to go to a party and share something that everyone is going to think is delicious, you know, that's what this is for. And
it's smooth too, because like that's the first time I took a pretty nice hit off it and didn't cough. Didn't even feel like that tingle that I was going to cough. So I like that part of it, because that's one thing with some vapes, I hit it and I'm like, I hate just feeling like I got to cough up a damn lung.
I know, that's like mammoth quality stuff. Heavy hitters is similar, like in that smoothness. I mean, I can take a huge hit and cough my lungs out for sure. And
I think everybody
it's
can.
It's possible.
But that one I was like kind of expecting to probably cough.
But if you're a little more subtle with it, you can kind of.
Yeah, it was good. I'd buy that one for sure.
Yeah, it's good. And I've gotten amazing feedback on all of the flavors, and I've loaded up the full book of like all of 6 of those strains into a shop, and they've been gone in a couple of days. Like that, people are trying them. The packaging is super cute, first of all.
Is really cool.
And then once you try it, you're like, holy shit, this is delicious. This is awesome. And I'm high. What is this, you know?
And then, so now all the way from vapes to Almora.
Right.
I didn't even know you like that. I came in from my days off and it was here when we first got it. I'm like, oh, cool. You know, whatever. It's the prices were good, but I had no idea it was you guys.
Yeah.
So
how funny.
That's really cool. And it sells big.
Yeah. So
it's a big seller.
When we first did the trading for Almora, first of all, we were really excited because we haven't done flower ever. And we had been told we were going to get flower finally to sell, which as weed dealers in the cannabis space who don't ever actually sell flower and weed, it was like,
that's a big deal.
Fuck yeah, we were so excited. So we first did the training for it. We had gotten some samples and everything like that. And our CEO came on to like start the training, and he was talking about how he spent time in the cannabis space seeing people spend, all of their money on like an eighth that was, good. And it was like a good percentage. It was good quality, but it was like $60, $70. And it was just like a regular, normal, good quality bud, right? And then he would see the other side of the spectrum, and he was like, then people go and they can't afford that. So they go and they buy the $20 eighths, and all of them are just like dry. The quality is just not there. And the percentages are just, pretty low. It's just not even normal quality weed, So he was like, let's just, instead of, because, they were working on the flower and trying to build the company, the brand, and like, what is the brand going to be? And he was saying, instead of putting it under heavy hitters as heavy hitters flower and making it like a $40 eighth, let's put it under farm, call it Almora, and let's do something that's affordable and reasonable, something that bud tenders could buy every single day, something that customers can buy every single day, not break the bank and still get something that's good quality.
Yeah.
So Almora is the name of a village in India where
that's what I was gonna
monks live.
Okay.
And the idea is just like being able to share something with people in an accessible way. That's a good thing to share. Like that's not bunk, that's not dry, that's not just like shitty sticks and stems and all that, like real nooks with people.
Yeah.
So that's why the price is you know, really good price. It's a value, I would say. It just like you can buy it. It's the percentages are sometimes like super high, but they haven't ever been like really, really low either.
Yeah.
Like I haven't seen anything under 20, I don't think. So
yeah, I don't think so either.
And I've seen some up in 31s, and the price is the same no matter what the THC percentage is. And so, and I have seen people literally, like as I'm doing heavy hitters demos at a shop where they have Almora, they're like, I bought this same eighth yesterday and now I'm buying it again today because I loved it and I want more. And then we started doing the ounces and the quarters and the half ounces, and the quality of the flower in the ounces was really surprising because it was still nugs. And
a lot of times when you get into the half ounces lately, it seems like it's a lot of the smaller stuff.
Right.
So I like it that it's actually like
and so that I think has set it apart, and the ounces and the half ounces and all that stuff is still very affordable. The pre-rolls are still very good and affordable. I've gone through a lot of pre-roll packs by now, and every single one I'm like, I usually kind of get pissed off when I smoke a pre-roll sometime. Like, you know, if it's a bad pre-roll, I'm like, God damn it. You know, I could have just put this weed in a bong or whatever, but I haven't had that a lot with any of the ones that like Almora pre-rolls just burn through, and they're not super big, so it's like easy. And I've been a weird fangirl about Almora. I'll open a bag and be like, look at this dog.
I don't buy a lot of flower because I'm more of a pre-roll guy, so I like that the pre-roll packs are nice, and I like that too because when I'm on my bike, I can just throw it in my vest, and don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And I've never been able to figure out I can't roll for shit. Like, I don't know. I've tried. I can't do it.
I can't roll either, but I've been a bong girl ever since the first time I ever smoked weed was out of a bong with my mom. So I think it's just like one of those things. And I think for some people, their first thing is a joint. So
I think
it's
mine
like,
was. Yeah,
so,
it was. So
know?
yeah, maybe there's something to say with that.
Yeah, and even when I was in high school, I made a bong out, or a little apple bong, you know.
I've seen that done so many times.
Yeah,
or like,
classic.
I just saw one of my friends on Instagram used, it looked like a hydro flask. It was really cool. I was like, I would probably pay for that because just for the like novelty of it, it looked really cool, and she was using it. So I mean, people get creative. I've seen it out of cans, all kinds of shit.
Yeah. So it's been a long time coming.
Managing 40 shops
ish
and more to come.
I haven't even looked at the number lately, but
in all that you had a podcast of your own.
Yeah, back in the day. So I did have a podcast with one of my coworkers / partners at the time. And it was about cannabis and sexuality. I did like sex education stuff on YouTube, and then that ended up leading me to going to get a certification to actually teach sex education. So I'm endorsed and certified, but there are no jobs for that kind of thing. So I do
like sex education that you would see like at a school, like that kind of shit, or like
I am qualified to answer people's sexual health questions. I'm qualified to help people with research and like figure out, you know, the answers to their questions and all that stuff, and just provide like general, like a Planned Parenthood type person, you know, like someone, if you're like, I have a lot of questions, can I please talk to you and ask them? Yeah, sure, I can help you.
That's really cool.
But like I said, not a lot of jobs out there. Planned Parenthoods are losing funding every day, all of that jazz. Yeah. So there's not much for people unless you want to have like an Instagram following or a YouTube following or, you know, stuff like that. So I wanted to do this podcast because I felt like like cannabis was really good for people with sexual health issues. And I felt like there was a place to kind of there was a need to highlight this relationship between cannabis and kind of addressing these sexual health issues. And so we did a couple, like 30 episodes, and I stopped doing it around COVID times just because, first of all, I moved away from my co-host. So that kind of sucked for the podcast.
So and it was then, before you moved here.
Right.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Okay. And then when I did move here, and then I moved here in February 2020. So a month later, we were all stuck at the house I just moved into. So I didn't really want to have people come into my home and like do the podcast with me. Like I had, you know, someone come in March, and then I had like a couple of people trickle throughout like that year and do it. And then I finally was just like, I don't really have time. This job does take a lot out of me, and I do dedicate a lot of myself to it. And not only that, but I just like, I didn't have a co-host anymore. So I would have to get guests, or I would either have to talk by myself and all of that stuff. So I decided to end up just like, you know, walking away, and maybe I'll do something else, you know, podcast wise or something else.
Well, keep me posted. I mean, I didn't get to listen to very much of I subscribed after you gave me that sticker. I love the name, by the way. It was really creative and cool.
I would love to get it going again, honestly.
And then I started looking at like, I just kind of scrolled through and just would see like, what's this episode about? And I just being so busy, I just haven't gone back to listen. But it's definitely one that I will listen to for sure. And I would be down to like listen to, if you did something along those lines again, I would definitely be down to check it out.
Super embarrassing though, for sure. Like definitely talked a lot about personal stuff, and you know.
I think that's what would make it like why people would connect with it though, is because you're not afraid to just say like what's up. And
I did get a lot of feedback from it, like from people who were like, I love this. Like, I love that you're talking about this, or I love that you're just, you know, being open. And I do kind of have some controversial ideas, or like things that I just like, I would like to be able to share my opinion and why I think that, even though it doesn't matter. Opinions are like butts, everyone has one kind of thing. And so.
But it's, you know, at the same time, like even with Madeline, right? Like she grew up in the city. I grew up in Cloverdale. Two totally different like ways of thinking, like, and in a year, like her saying to me like, okay, I feel this way, and here's why, or I think this way because of this. It's really opened me up to a lot of shit that I probably never would have agreed with, or even like taken the time to figure out on my own. Yeah. Because you just get like, you're raised in your bubble, and that's just it. That's what you stick with. And so like, I think people like yourself are very valuable, because you got to get it out there. And like, so people can understand, like, because, you know, you get raised a certain way, like this isn't okay to like, it's this, and it's no, you know, especially when you're raised in church, like it's very like and by the book. I definitely
like, my grandma was definitely the most parental figure in my life, and she's from Alabama and Baptists, and Baptists are very like, do not sin. Her sisters don't drink. They don't dance. And if you do sin, you're fucked. You're going to hell. Like, so sorry. Yeah. So, and no offense to any Baptists out there, but it was just like a very rigid fire and brimstone kind of way to grow up. And even like cannabis, like because my mom was, you know, smoking weed and, you know, doing other things like most of my life, my grandmother was the most influential parental role, and she was very against any kind of drug. So was I. Like growing up, I was like, my mom's a bad person. She does drugs, and I will never smoke weed, and I will never do drugs. And then on the first day of high school, I wanted to go to high school with my best friend, like on the first day. So I stayed at her house and we got ready together and we went to high school together. And in the parking lot, she wanted to smoke weed with her older sister. And I was like, oh my God, you guys are the worst. You're going to smoke weed on the first day of school? Oh, like the first day of school, I lost my mind. And that was, freshman year. And by the time I was a junior, I had smoked weed. So, things change. But, and now, I'm in the industry selling weed every day. So
yeah, I know. I used to think that same way. Like I could, stoners are just lazy and like whatever, like all those stereotypes that everybody tells you growing up to get you not to smoke weed. And I'm like, now I'm realizing like, shit, probably the most successful people I know all get high. Like they're all smoking weed.
Right.
So. And
I do kind of hate it when people, I don't hate it, but I do kind of get a little like, don't always blame cannabis. Sometimes it's you, like when people are like, well, maybe you should like smoke less weed or do like this differently. Like it's because of how much weed you smoke. And it's like, well, self-regulate yourself. As first of all, you can smoke as much weed as you want, but make sure you have the time to do it. Don't smoke as much weed as you want before you go drive your car or go to work or take care of like children or stuff like that,
Get your life done.
Right. And I think that there's definitely like a self-regulatory thing with cannabis. And I think people need to pay a little bit attention to that nouadays a lot with the higher THC percentages and everything like that. It gets a little, crazy. You get a little crazy high.
Well, if you ever find time to do another one, I think you should because...
Yeah, like I would like to bring it back, or something else similar, like something. I have this creative bone in my body. I don't get to itch a lot because I do have a lot of creative outlets with this job, especially with like making flyers and like creating PowerPoints and decks and education materials and Instagram is so big.
It's huge.
Oh my God. I've done so many Instagram cartridge photo shoots with like all of the weed things I have and just like carry it with me to a park and then like find different places and ways to take pictures of weed.
The online like presence of everything is why I wanted to do this, because I just felt like you would come in and you would do this training for all of us down here,
right?
And we're getting all the training and we're getting tons of great information, and we don't get all that time with the customer to say all the cool shit that there is to say about heavy hitters or Almora or whatever it is that we're trying to sell. And I wanted this to be that where the customers in a fun way could just hear the same stuff that we get to hear and come in here now because they heard this about heavy hitters maybe and be way more educated and feel way more comfortable. And then when as a bud tender is down there talking to them, when they start they know already. They've got that connection already. So but I also wanted to make it like, it's easy to sit up here and I could come up with like 10 questions and just be like, oh, let's talk about this, let's talk about that. But just to like get a little more of like your personality, my personality, I was scared when we first started because I was like, how am I going to get people to come here and like want to talk to me? Like I didn't even know I was going to do it.
Yeah.
I just had the idea like Doobie Nights should do a podcast.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, do it.
Nice.
It's on you. I'm like, fuck. Okay. Luckily I have a good, with Megan and everybody there. And the connections that you make, you just mention it and everybody's like, yeah. Fuck,
and I heard Austin was going to come, and Austin came on my podcast back in the day because we actually, I met him when he worked as a brand ambassador for Elion in Sacramento. And I was the brand ambassador.
Tomorrow we're going on the tour.
Oh, that's so cool. Farms, I'm so jealous. I've always wanted to tour a farm out here because they're cool. They're cool.
Yeah. I went to one with them and it was their Santa Rosa farm, and it's a smaller one, but it's really cool. I laughed because it's in this middle of this vineyard. You'd never know it was there.
Right.
All of a sudden it's just, here's this big farm. Like, what the hell? But, and now I'm going to be talking to him and I'm going to use that tomorrow and be like, you did Maggie's podcast? I've tried to he wants to do it. I know he does because we've talked about it. It's just, he's busy too.
Yeah.
He's like you.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to carve out an hour or more
right.
to sit down and talk because, you know.
It's so funny that when I kind of knew he was out here, but I wasn't sure if he like had stayed throughout the pandemic and everything. Like, you know, people move around. And so I saw him the other day at Humanity Wellness, and I forgot his name was Austin and not. So he used to have, his Instagram used to be Moses Mata back in SEC. And everyone called him Moses, and I knew his name was Austin. And I would always do the same thing though, because everyone would call him that. So I also called, and then I was like, no, your name is Austin. Your name is Austin. And then when I saw him, I called him Moses. And I was like, oh shit, I know that's not your name. Like still to this day. And then I was like, when I heard her say, I was like, oh yeah, Austin. I know him. Who is that? Oh, that's Moses. Yeah. It's not his name.
I kind of deal with that a little bit because I grew up, my last name is Monday.
Oh yeah, the coolest last name.
My dad, that's his last name, but legally it's Lemaster, right? So I grew up all through school, everything Monday. Nobody knows me as Lemaster. If you said Donald Lemaster, like very few people would know.
Right.
So Monday's what I go by. So like, it's so funny when I hear sometimes people have said my last name, and it takes me a second even. It's my name.
Yeah.
Because nobody calls me that. It's, you know, all my Instagram stuff's Monday, Facebook, everything, you know. But I love Austin. I'd like to get him up here. His energy is, he's one like, he's like you and like Chuck, when I did his, it was just because I knew like, okay, I'm not even going to struggle to have a conversation with these people. I've had it a couple times where it's like, you really have to drag it out of them to get them to talk. Yeah, and I remember. I literally knew like, okay, I'm going to have like 5 or 6 good questions to get this conversation really going. And even then it was tough to keep it going because I think it's just the fact that they know that people are going to hear it and they don't want to say anything wrong.
Yeah. But and I remember all of that feeling and it's a little nerve-wracking, but then you think, oh, okay, they're going to edit it and all of that stuff. So it's like,
and even if we didn't, and you said something that like
nobody thinks about it for more than 5 seconds.
Yeah, you hear it and it's gone, and who cares? You know, let it go.
Yeah, but it was a fun experience. I don't know. My boyfriend does a podcast now, so I feel like.
And what's that one called?
I'm still in the ether. Well, he's a comedian, so he does a comedy podcast with another comedian called Like an Adult. Like an Adult. Very funny because he is exactly like an adult.
I'm going to look it up right now because I'll forget otherwise, and I want to. Like an Adult. So does he do shows like, obviously he hasn't.
Yeah, so did you hear about the Gateway show? Yeah, that's him. Okay. He's the blonde one, or I guess the redhead in that picture. Okay. What
show?
The Gateway show this weekend. It was put on by ABX. It's a really cool show idea. What they do is they take like comics, like I guess 5 or whatever, however many, and then they go on and do a 10-minute set completely sober, and then they take a break and they all get high, and then they do another set high, and then like, you know, you can kind of compare and see. Most of them I think do better when they're high, just because the first set you're nervous. It was a big crowd too. Like this one had like 300 people at it, and then, you know, like it's your first set of the night, so you're like, ooh, get jitters, and then you go get high, and then you're like, oh, I was just out here. You're more comfortable, you know, and you're high. So I think it's a funny idea, and I wasn't there, but apparently there was a ton of industry people at the show.
That's cool.
And so he did that show this weekend. So yeah, he does some shows and stuff, and it's cool because like there's a dispensary in Ukiah that was a Sundial dispensary that used to do comedy shows in their like consumption lounge.
Oh, that's cool.
And that one went really well back in the day. And so I think they want to kind of bring that back. And so it's definitely like a fun dispensary kind of like, sometimes our jobs overlap a little in that way.
Cool. Yeah, keep me posted when he does a show. I'd like to go see it. It's been a long time since I went to an actual comedy show.
Yeah.
But I love watching comedy. We watch it all the time on Netflix and stuff. So it's like,
I didn't even realize there was such a big like community out here in like Santa Rosa, because like we're the city. I would be like, oh yeah, there's obviously comedians in the city. San Francisco, like Berkeley, I would totally guess. Oakland, but Santa Rosa. But there is a ton of people out here, and there's shows that happen like Three Disciples and Hot Monk and Sally Tomatoes. That's where the Gateway show was. So like when I met Chris, I was like, this is crazy. There's a lot of shows everywhere. I never would have guessed. So
yeah, I didn't. I live here and I didn't know. I don't hear about them, you know.
So yeah, if there's ever a show at like Three Disciples or Hot Monk or something like that, I'll let you guys know and you can come. Sure. That'd be fun.
You should. Have you guys thought about doing one together? I was just thinking while you were talking, I'm like, what you were talking about, and then him being a comedian. I think that would be like, it could be really cool.
A show together?
Yeah, like a podcast.
Oh, yeah. No, I want to do a podcast with him, and the issue is that's what like I would resurrect Highly Sexual, but it's like I did it with
somebody
an
else.
ex, you know, and like it was. Chris isn't really in the cannabis industry or into sexuality like the same level that I'm at. And then at least my other co-host worked in the industry. So it was kind of like a common thing. So that's why it's like, well, I'd have to do something different with him. And it would probably have to be like a little more comedy based because he's in comedy. Yeah. But we could still do like some sort of weed thing, I guess. But I'm like, you know, how do those things line up? And he already has a podcast, so he's busy and all that. So I'm like, I have to figure something out. But I would love to do one with him because I think we're funny together.
Yeah. Well, that's like Madeline and I've talked about doing one just as a couple.
Right.
And we're going to do it. It's just we got to figure it all out and what we're going to call it and whatnot.
Well, I always say there's two types of podcasts, right? Yeah. There's conversation podcasts, like Joe Rogan, like us doing this right now, like Highly Sexual was, like conversational. And then there's gimmick podcasts where they do something, you know, like I listen to a podcast where they solve riddles and then do improv about the riddles. I also listen to like Dungeons and Dragons podcasts where they play Dungeons and Dragons on the podcast.
There was one I just watched recently. It was on YouTube, but they have a podcast, and I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's a couple of hip hop artists from New York, and they literally start off just talking like this, but during it, they're drinking. So like by the end of the thing, they're just like fucked up. And it's just, you can just see the progression like as it goes along for like an hour.
Right.
And they're just getting hammered, doing shots. Like every couple minutes, they're like, okay, do another shot. And then,
wow.
And we've talked about doing that here, doing just an episode though, because I don't know that I could do that on a regular basis.
Right, yeah.
And just, you know, like have Damon eat like 100 milligrams and just then, start talking. And then, okay, now do another, because he swears like he can't get high.
Yeah. Oh.
Like that. Like,
you know, there are some people who like can't.
He says it just makes him a little tired. So I'm like, all right, well, let's put it to the test. We've talked about doing that. And then I did one with Matt St. Germain, and we did like a bunch of judging.
Oh yeah.
Of flour. I should have brought some Almora. I didn't because we didn't have a jar to put
I could have brought some heavy hitters. You could have tried them all.
I was trying to. I put them. What we did was we did 8 jars, and they were all taped, so he couldn't see any of the labels. He had no idea. It was all blind taste tests because he does judging for the Emerald Cup.
Oh, that's so cool.
So and we just rolled up, and I swear to God, like I was higher than I've ever been. When it was done, and I didn't realize it because we're just talking like this, and then when we stopped and I stood up, and you just see this haze over the whole room, and the room just, I was like, holy shit. And I still had to, and we didn't do it here, so I had to, we were at another studio, and I had to drive over here and finish out the workday, and I'm like, man, I gotta schedule those ones on a day I'm not working.
Right, yeah.
This is a lot.
And I did that for Highly Sexual too. I would always like try to get my guest high as well, so they would like at least have a little loss of inhibition slightly and talk to me a little bit more comfortably or whatever. But it's so weird that like that subject matter is such a sensitive, like we don't want to talk about it. Yeah, it's interesting. And that's, I think, one of the main reasons why I wanted to go into the cannabis space is because that's what I was interested in, was like, I wanted to do sexual health or like, you know, educate about sexuality and all that stuff. And at the time, when I just got out of college, I was working for a preschool. I was a preschool teacher with like little kids. And I was like, I know that sounded so weird, but it was just kind of like, I couldn't pursue those things and like still feel like I wasn't going to be judged. Like I was nervous that the parents would see my YouTube video and be like, she's talking about dildos on a YouTube video and she's teaching my son how to talk. Like that's not okay. What if she teaches him how to say dildo? And you know, it's like, obviously I kept my personality very out of my preschool days because like they didn't know I smoked weed either. They didn't know, you know, and I just felt like my coworkers, we have a disconnect because I feel like I'm a totally different person outside of the preschool for a good reason. And so I just kind of felt like this isn't really where I belong, you know? And so I tried to find somewhere like cannabis. I was like, that's a space where it's adults. You can be yourself. You can wear whatever you want.
Say what you want to say.
You can say what you want. Exactly. So I was like, this would be a good industry for me to also pursue this other side of my interests and stuff like that. And this industry, I think, gobbles people up because it's a new industry, because people do get really passionate about it. And I think the same thing has happened for me. Like I've been gobbled up. You know, I live and breathe cannabis industry. Like this job has done so much for me, and I've been really passionate about being able to share products with people. Like I think before COVID and now that things are opening back up, like my happiness level has, you know, obviously fluctuated. Like before COVID, interacting with patients, being able to get their feedback and like tell me face to face, I love your pens. Your pens have helped me with this. Your pen, Heavy Hitters has helped me manage my pain, fall asleep. Heavy Hitters is the only thing I smoke. Like those face-to-face interactions.
They make your day.
And then going from like no interaction with customers and literally just like at home interacting with a computer. So hard. And then coming back out, doing demos again, talking to people again, it's like, holy shit, like I forgot.
Like you really do forget how to talk to people. And like I've noticed it even like going out to restaurants, like service isn't what it used to be. I mean, it's like everybody just got rusty. A year off will do that to you. And those interactions down there, like when I would have those as a bud tender, I loved it. That's what made me like look forward to coming to work, because you start seeing the same customers come back and they ask for you. And now, you know, I love that I got promoted. I love my new position, but I'm not out there anymore. And so it's been a little tough. I still have my regular customers. I'll go out there and say hi to them and and talk to them, but
and that's nice. And like my favorite part of demos is not even like people when they're like, oh, tell me about Heavy Hitters, because I talk about Heavy Hitters all day, every day. It's like when they forget that I don't work for the dispensary and they're like, can you help me find a gummy that is that like meets these qualifications of what I'm looking for, or like whatever it is. And I'm like, yes, I can. I know where the gummies are and I know a lot about them.
A lot of it's funny, I don't think the brand ambassadors, some of them, because we have some new ones now, new faces after COVID, and I don't think they realized that they were going to come in and be bud tenders too, because like it happens every time. Even no matter how many bud tenders we have out there, it's inevitable at least one or two customers is going to ask that person standing there, can you help me find this? And it may not even be anywhere in the realm of what they're trying. And funny, like here, I like doing demos here because
there is a lot of chances for that. And I do feel a little bad sometimes because like I kind of jump in and then I'm like, well, I'm helping this customer here on this TV. They're putting in their order already. Cause like, you know, you can do it touch screen right there. So,
I love it.
Yeah, that's the best part of the job. And now like that we have expanded some things, like hearing that about Almora, like hearing that people love it, they buy it all the time, like that has been really awesome because, you know, now our reach has expanded and now we're people who wouldn't fuck with vapes but only like flower. Now we're able to hear from those people and be like, those people are like, yeah, like this is awesome that I can get this much for this cheap and it's this good quality and like this is awesome. Thank you, you know? Yeah.
That was the other reason I wanted to do this too, because I was, you know, I realized when you talk to the reps like yourself or like, you know, all the others that come in and you start telling them and they're like, oh, it's so nice to hear that. We don't get that feedback, like hardly ever. No one really tells us. And it's like, I feel like just we're your customers. So you need that feedback, like that what you're selling is a great product and what you're doing, and we appreciate that you drop off all the food. I fucking love it. Right. All the shirts and the hats and all that. That's like, it means a lot. It really does. Like, I don't know if you get told enough on that shit because it's awesome just to like know that like
I think sales is definitely a thankless job. You know, you get thanked in cash. You're like, if you do well, your bank account will thank you. And if you're not doing well, then you won't see anything. And it's
but
more
I feel like people, like, I know me, I thrive more on, I need that positive reinforcement to know that I'm doing my job correctly. I mean, you know,
there are times where I have been like moved to tears, like because like someone is just so grateful and I'm just like, this is just what I'm supposed to do, you know? But I'm grateful. Like you said, I have a lot of shops, but I don't have nearly as many as most cannabis reps do nowadays. Like our company, I think is probably one of the biggest sales teams in distribution. Like, I don't know for sure, so don't quote me on it, but like we have a lot more sales reps than most people I know. Like most account managers that I talk to from other distributions have like double the size of territory that I do. And the reason why we make them so small is so that we can manage them in a more personal way so that I can go visit the shops in Cloverdale once a week. And they're like, Red Door Remedies, the buyer there, she is one of the nicest women I've ever met. But it took me a really long time to get to that point of meeting her and having those conversations and talking to her, because she obviously gets a lot of emails, but nobody comes in and persistently asks to see her all the time. It takes a lot of times of knocking on that door to get that door to open.
Especially in this industry, because it's like every day we're getting, hey, so-and-so from this company wants to talk to someone. And like, damn, like you can't keep up. You literally could be a full-time job just sitting down there and talking to reps.
And then there's another level of it. It's like, once you get your products on the shelf, are you still going in? Are you still checking on them? Are you still bringing them different things so that to help with that sell through, to giving them educational materials, all of that stuff? So, you know, once I get something on the shelf, then that's when the real work starts of like maintaining that, making sure that that's successful. And that's kind of one of the things that, you know, she said, like, struck me. She's like, you're the only one who cares. Like, just like that. And those kinds of things, it's like, yeah, that does make a difference to me, because it's like, I know I'm not the only one who cares, but I feel so grateful that I have the time and that I get the support from my company to say, spend your time bringing them goodies, bringing them educational materials, going in and just saying hi, checking in, making sure things are going well, asking the buyer how her day is.
That goes a long way, because I remember, I mean, there's not very many of them, but you were one of those reps when I would see, I'm like, oh, Maggie's here, I'm gonna go say what's up. Like, I just like to go say, you know, that personal. And then like showing up on a regular basis, that goes a long way too, because it shows that you really do care, and the bud tenders care more. I've noticed, just because now I'm in the back and I can see what's going out, when the reps that are here consistently and dropping off product samples or shirts and stuff, the bud tenders, like for whatever, they eat it up, and then they're like they start supporting the company now because they're like they care enough to help us out, hook us up. You know, I think that's the key. Samples are key,
right?
And a lot of brands don't do it.
Bud tenders are like they're the most important part, and I think, and you know, that's why I do try to take time for places that don't have like a set up education or training program or whatever it is. Like I want to take the time and talk about everything that I can, share whatever I can, because like some places might not carry our live resin, but I still want them to know why live resin is live resin or what the difference is. And like, there are places that, you know, they just don't have the resources to kind of get all of that heavy duty information like covered before, you know, they get on the floor. Yeah. So I don't take it upon myself, but I do love to do that. Like I love to be able to be like, we've talked about heavy hitters, you know about our product. Do you have any other questions about cannabis? Like, do you want to talk about, hey, Maddie? So, but yeah, this job has been, I feel like a Renaissance woman. I just like kind of do a lot of different things, and I've done a lot of different things. And so now I feel like I'm just, you know, I got a lot of different hats that I can put on if I need to. Yeah, no, it's definitely the first job I've ever had where I feel satisfied. Yeah. At the end of the day, like I accomplished something. I may have changed somebody's life for the better. Who knows? You know what I mean? Like I feel like, because sometimes you do, you have, like I've had people come back and be like, if it wasn't for this, I'd still be on like whatever medication they were on before, and they're not now. So I never thought I would find a job where I'm like genuinely wake up and I want to be here. Yeah. And that's why there are a lot of things that, you know, we get passionate about as being in the industry. There's a lot of like misconceptions and stigmas, and also just like things that the industry, like THC percentage, like things that the industry is focused on and driven by that don't mean as much, or that we know is just like doesn't necessarily reflect the quality and all of that other stuff. It's like there's a lot of conversations that still need to be had in the cannabis space that I think we get up in arms and passionate about, because we do love this job, and it feels like we've built a lot. Like the industry itself has built a lot, and you know, working for heavy hitters for the past 3 years, like even our company, we've seen so many different changes. I've seen, you know, different phases of BCC qualifications, and then metric, and you know, all of that stuff, and it's going to keep changing. Yeah, and it's just going to keep changing and getting crazier, and like everyone's like ready for federal legalization, and I'm like terrified because I know it's just going to come with so much other shit too. It's like, it's not that I don't want it to happen. It's not like I want people to be in prison for cannabis. I don't. I'm just, I know exactly what you mean. You know, we've seen the BCC make a mess, and we've not, BCC, we love you, but you know, we've seen things get messy. Yeah. Well, I think it's just, it's because it was just medical for so long, and then when it went legal, I was almost like they're learning as they go. Yeah. And it's all of us are. Yeah, and it's really hard, because then it's like you don't realize you need to do a certain thing until you run into a certain problem, and then it's like, fucking, now we gotta backtrack and figure this out and add this step, and it's so crazy. Yeah, like, you know, it's a startup industry for and like something as simple as like switching your POS system which is not simple for most companies and accounts and everything like that, is like 20 times more complicated for us with our regulations and our taxes and like rules and everything. It's just sorry, because we've done it 3 times now, so. Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So, well, I appreciate that you came out here today. Thank you. Thank you for having me. No. I feel like we didn't talk about heavy hitters enough. It's amazing. We'll do it again. I love it. No, like, and you said all the things about heavy hitters that I wanted, that I felt like needed to be heard. We could do another episode literally of just straight up heavy hitters. But I wanted you to come through too, because I know like other shops are going to hear this, and like I want them to be able to hear who you are, like as a person too, and like put a face to that name, and like, you know, get a little history behind you, who you are, you know. Well, I'm Maggie. I'm the account manager at Mammoth Distribution. And my phone number, I'm just kidding.
No, but we'll do it again for sure. And I'm gonna put some. We'll have to talk about it, but I want to get some video or some sort of like, if you guys have like an audio thing or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
Cool.
But I want to do something. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had fun. I have to pee though.
No, me too. I was thinking about that.